All right, welcome back. Now, we've gotten to the implementation of controls. Now, if you look at our RMF process very well, we've talked about preparation, we've talked about categorizing our system. Now we have gotten to the stage where we select the right controls, we have tailored down our controls. Now we need to be able to implement our controls. When we say implementation of controls, what do we mean? Now let's get into it. Now, what NIST is telling us is that when it comes to implementation, he wants us to be able to write the implementation statements. Then there are certain deliverables or artifacts that he wants us to develop when we get to this stage. So what we are going to do is that we are going to write implementation statements. Now, how do we write the implementation statements? We write the implementation statements using the NIST 853 revision 5. I'm going to do that for you, show you how the implementation statement is written. But before that, let's get into the other documentations or the other artifacts that we need for us during the implementation. Now, we need to put together our SSP, our configuration management plan, our contingency plan, our disaster recovery plan, control policy and procedures. Then we also have our standard of procedure, or we have our control policy and procedure, or our standard of procedure that we use. And so what we're going to do is that I'm going to explain to us all these terminologies. When we say system security plan, what is our system security plan? Now, our system security plan is what we call our SSP. It's going to be something that is familiar throughout the risk management framework. You cannot get an ATO without an SSP. Yeah. If you don't have an SSP, you cannot get an ATO. And so what you do is that a system security plan is a comprehensive document that outlines the security controls and the safeguards that implement to protect a system. Now, what does the system security plan contain? The system security plan contains the architecture, the policies and procedures, the responsibilities, and the implementation statements. So everything that we do, from preparation, categorization, selection of controls, everything comes into our system security plan. But when we get the implementation stage, this is where everything that we have done, we put it all together to form our SSP. Isn't that so beautiful? Okay. Now, after we have done that, then we need to be able to develop our configuration management plan. Our configuration management plan is going to outline the procedures and processes for managing changes within our environment. And so it ensures that configurations are documented, they are controlled and maintained in a consistent and secure manner. How is that being done? Now, during the implementation details, when documenting implementation details in a configuration management plan, you should be able to describe the procedure for identifying and evaluating, approving, implementing, and verifying changes to our system configurations. We'll go into more details as we go ahead. Then we also have our contingency plan. Now, our contingency plan is a set of procedures or protocols that have been designed to make sure that we continue the availability of critical system. So in case anything happens to our system, in case there is a disaster or an event happens within our environment, how do we handle this? Our contingency management plan also talks about all those things. Our disaster recovery plan is a subset of our contingency plan. Now, it focuses specifically on recovering from major disaster, catastrophic event that may result in prolonged system downtime or data loss. Then we have our control policies and procedures. Now, the policy and procedures I've talked to you about, they are documents that define the rules, guidelines, protocols for implementing and enforcing a security control within an organization. Now, let's move on to the next one. Now, we'll talk about CIS benchmarks. What are benchmarks? CIS benchmarks. Now, CIS benchmarks, the full meaning of CIS means Center for Internet Security. Now, these are certain controls that we have in place. There are about 18 controls that we have in place that we use to protect our environment. So when you hear a benchmark, it's like we are saying a safeguard or a control. Now, it provides industry standard benchmarks for securely configuring various operating systems. Sometimes our software applications and also our network devices. Now, these benchmarks are developed by cybersecurity experts and are based on consensus, best practices, and recommendations. And so typically, CIS benchmarks provide detailed configuration guidelines and recommendations for secure specific technology stacks. So these are various controls that has been selected, and they have been selected, and I've made sure that if you are implementing these controls, your system will be secured. What are some of the examples of some of these controls? We have system hardening, we have access controls, encryption, logging, and auditing. And this can be used to assess the security posture of our organization. It has a friend, and his friend, and the name of his friend is what? Sticks. Now, Sticks, or the Security Technical Implementation Guide, is a configuration standard consisting of cybersecurity requirements for a specific product. Now, the use of Sticks enables a methodology for securing protocols within networks and servers. So what we are saying is that within the Department of Defense, we call an organization DISA. Now, DISA or Sticks are cybersecurity standards that have been published by DISA to help the DoD, and the DoD is the Department of Defense, to secure the information systems and network. It provides a detailed configuration requirements, the technical procedures, the security controls for various technologies and various systems that they use. Now, it could contain configuration settings, some are controlled that can be applied to ensure that the DoD security standards are in compliance. These requirements are often stringent than commercial security benchmarks and are tailored to be able to meet the unique security needs of military environments. When you are implementing Sticks, you know very well that the environment that you find yourself in is a military environment and your system is going to be secured. And so when we talk about CIS benchmark, that is what we mean. And we have CIS controls and we have CIS benchmarks. The benchmarks are the consensus developed security configuration guidelines. The controls are the perceptive, prioritized, and simplified set of security best practices held to be able to protect our environment. Now, let's get into some of the terminologies under implementation. Now remember that we have actually categorized our system. We have selected our baseline controls. We have tailored down our baseline controls. Now we have gotten to the stage where we need to be able to write the implementation statement for the controls. Now, when we are writing the implementation statement for these controls, what do we mean? We want to implement the security controls and document how the controls are being deployed within the system. Remember, we are trying to write how the controls are deployed within our system. These controls that we are talking about, we are saying that some of the controls could be implemented in place or fully implemented. What it means is that the control is working within our environment. Some are partially implemented. Partially implemented means that we have not fully implemented all. We have implemented some, and some are either any of the status, whether non-applicable, planned, or inherited. Then we have plan. Plan means that we have not implemented it, but we are aware of it. So we have a plan to be able to do what? Implement that control. Then we have inherited. Inherited means that we are borrowing it or we are taking it from another system. A compensated control. Now, when we say compensated, I'm sure this is the first time you are hearing it, but a compensated control means that we are not going by the actual control, but we are using a control that is similar and using that in place of the actual control that we are supposed to. Then we have not applicable. And not applicable means not applicable. It means that it doesn't apply to the system at all. And these are the various terminologies.